I find myself often thinking about bacon. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I wonder, is that just me or there's others out there who have the same cravings? If you're one of them, then welcome to my house and sit down, because today I'm going to show you how to make bacon in 3 different ways. An American style recipe, a European style recipe, and an Asian style recipe. I mean, if this is not gonna quench all your cravings, then I don't know what. So let's start. I had to look far and wide for this piece of bacon, for this slab of joy, but my perseverance paid off. 4 butcher shops later and I found it. The glorious bacon piece, this slab of lead that will become gold through the magical and alchemical process of smoking. The slab of bacon that I found is 3 kilos. Or 6.6 pounds. It was 32 centimeters wide and 30 centimeters tall. These measurements were perfect for the 3 recipes that I'm trying to make here. And I'm gonna continue by dividing it into 3 pieces or 1 kilo each, because the spices in the recipes that I'm gonna tell you in a second are for 1 kilo of bacon. I advise you to cut each 1 kilo piece further, preferably into 4 pieces, just because by doing that it's gonna be easier to handle, to prepare, to store, and just to use when you're cooking with it. Now for the first recipe, the Romanian one, I'll do what Grandma used to love to do the most. When we would sacrifice the pig for Christmas, I think 80% of the bacon would be done with these ingredients and these flavors, because that's what we all love the most. A small part would be left for different products like sausage or being smoked in a different way, and then added to sausage, making a specialty item. Get a decent sized container, because for this recipe you'll need 35 grams or 2 tablespoons of pickling salt, 10 grams or 1 tablespoon of black peppercorn, 20 grams or 4 tablespoons of herb mix, just make sure that it contains thyme, basil, oregano and sage, 7 grams or 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika, 3 fresh bay leaves or 5 dried ones, 1 cinnamon stick, 7 grams or 1 tablespoon of chili flakes, 60 grams or 1 head of peeled garlic, and 500 milliliters or 1 pint of good lager. The chili pepper wasn't the ingredient that Grandma used to use because it wasn't readily available back in the day. She used to use a hot spicy pepper that was native to the area where she grew up. But you can use whatever you want, just don't go crazy with some super spicy pepper like Carolina Reaper or Trinidad Moruga ones, because they're gonna overpower everything. Now mix all these ingredients well until fully incorporated, and add your pieces of bacon inside without trying to position them in a specific way or another, because now it's gonna go into the fridge for 3 days to marinate. In these 3 days, we'll have to take the bowl or container out twice a day and rotate them, making sure that they get fully covered and marinated on all sides. So throughout the 3 days, you'll have more than enough time to make sure that they get coated properly. This next recipe is something that sparked my interest a couple of years ago when I went to a restaurant not far away from Holborn Station in London. In that place, I had the best pork belly of my life. This Chinese style bacon recipe is inspired by that experience, and I hope and wish that I can recreate that feeling that stayed with me for so long. So for this recipe, you'll need 75 grams or 6 tablespoons of brown sugar, 21 grams or 3 tablespoons of rock salt, 1 star anise, 6 dry bay leaves, 4 grams or 2 tablespoons of ground black pepper, 237 milliliters or 1 cup of light soy sauce, 237 milliliters or 1 cup of rice cooking wine, 237 milliliters or 1 cup of dark soy sauce. Start mixing everything quite well, because we want to melt as much of the brown sugar as possible now. Before you put the bacon in, just take a second and appreciate how beautiful this marinade looks like, and also the smells and the flavors that come out of it. It's something special. I hope you're gonna enjoy it. Once you've done your moment of appreciation, put the bacon pieces in, and as before, you can rest assured that you don't have to do anything special right now, because it's gonna go into the fridge for 3 days. Just remember that twice a day you need to take it out and turn them around and mix them up so they get coated and marinated on all sides. A while back, I worked with a girl from Indiana, and while we were talking, she said that her family uses juniper berries when they're curing and marinating their bacon before finishing it. And I was a bit confused because I knew that you can use juniper berries in dishes that had pork or rabbit or venison, but I never thought to use it in making bacon because bacon is so specific. You know, everybody has this general idea of what bacon should be. Since then, I try to incorporate juniper berries in making a specific recipe of bacon, and today I want to share it with you, hoping that this is gonna be something that you're willing to try and see what this exotic juniper berry flavored bacon is gonna feel like and taste like. For this recipe, you'll need the following: 16 grams or 2 tablespoons of juniper berries, 35 grams or 2 tablespoons of pickling salt, 50 grams or 4 tablespoons of brown sugar, 7 grams or 1 tablespoon of rainbow peppercorns, and 4 fresh bay leaves. Before you mix all the ingredients together, you want to crush the juniper berries a bit, at least in quarters, at least in 4. And the best thing for that would be a mortar and pestle. But if you don't have a mortar and pestle, you can also use the underside of a fork. Just make sure that they're crushed to release and have access to those flavors and juices inside of the juniper berries. Now, if I said rainbow peppercorns and that scared you, don't worry, they don't come from Ponyland. There's just different color peppercorns that you can find either as a mix or individual. We buy ours individually and mix them together. And what we're using is red, green, white, and black peppercorns. Each and every one of them has a different flavor and a different power to bring to the mix. With the bay leaves, if you're using the fresh ones, make sure you bruise them before you add them to the mix to get all of that goodness out. Or if you're not going to use the fresh ones, use double the amount of the bay leaves. For the other 2 recipes, we used containers, but the best thing for this specific one is a tray, because we're gonna have to rub the pieces of bacon with this mix. It's gonna be a dry rub. So get yourself a tray, mix all the ingredients together, making sure that they're fully incorporated, and then just start rubbing the pieces of bacon, making sure that they're covered on all sides. Then put them in a container and we're gonna add them to the fridge. The same like with the other 2 recipes. We're going to marinate them for 3 days in the fridge and take them out twice a day to mix them and move them around to make sure that they get all the flavors incorporated into the meat. At the end of day 3 of marinating, you're going to want to take all of these containers out of the fridge, and we want to dry it as much as possible. The easiest and quickest way to do it is to use paper towels, because we're not going to necessarily let it dry in the air too much. We're going to take it tomorrow straight away to the garden and smoke it, and we'll smoke it for 2 days. Each day we'll smoke it for 4 hours, then leave it at the garden or in the smokehouse until the next day to rest and to solidify that smokiness that it gets from each session, and then we'll bring it home and again let it rest for a couple of hours to settle down, basically, so we don't take it from one process to another and just not allow it to penetrate properly. The wood that I'm going to be using to smoke this bacon is going to be apple wood, cherry wood, and plum wood. You want to look into getting fruit tree wood to smoke bacon because they add a beautiful color and also a specific sweetness to the bacon. And I think we all want to have our bacon a bit sweet, not necessarily from the sugars that we add to it, but there's a sweetness that comes from the wood that offers satisfaction. As soon as the kindling is done, there's one more thing that I have to do before starting the fire, and that's hooking and hanging the bacon. Not so easy in -10 Celsius when the pork skin became dragon skin. make this bacon ready to eat, you have two options. One is to cook it. Now, the best way is to do it in the oven, and for that you need to preheat your oven at 180 Celsius, so 355 Fahrenheit. Once you reach the temperature in the oven, get yourself a baking tray and a baking mat or baking paper inside of the tray, because we don't want the meat to stick to the bottom of the baking tray due to the sugar that's used in the recipes. Once the temperature is achieved, put the bacon inside of the oven, and this process is going to take between 10 and 20 minutes. Let it cook for 10 minutes and then take it out and start probing it. You want to achieve 75 Celsius in the middle of the meat, or 167 Fahrenheit, to make the meat ready to eat and safe to eat. Once you reach the temperature, take it out and let it cool down a bit. You don't want to cut through it when it's piping hot, because it's going to lose a lot of that fat. The second method to make the bacon safe to eat is to cure it further. Even if we smoked it, you can let it hang in a cold place. Like, for example, I'm going to let it hang at the garden for up to 3 weeks or even more. Safety step here is to weigh the pieces of bacon now. We want to lose between 35 and 40%. That's when the meat can be eaten like that, because it becomes a cured product and it's safe. If, like us, you don't have 3 or 4 weeks to let it hang, you can also use a conventional, home dehydrator. If you're gonna go with a dehydrator, then the same. We want to weigh the pieces of meat before, put them inside on the meat function for 48 hours, and then if we lost 35 to 40% of the weight, then we're ready. So we basically gain almost 4 weeks in time. If not, then you have to leave it for longer until you reach that mark. It's the end of day 5 and it's finally time to enjoy the fruits of our labor. So let's just jump straight away into tasting it, because I cannot wait anymore. My mouth is watering like crazy. So I think there's benefits for enjoying the bacon in both ways, both dried and cured, which is this side of it, and cooked as well. Traditionally on the Christmas table, we always have both versions, be it sausage, bacon, chicken thighs, whatever it is, we have it cooked and cured as well. So unless you want to really preserve a huge amount of bacon in a specific way for a long time, then I strongly encourage you to try both of them. Oven or fry a couple of slices and just eat the cured one as well, the dehydrated one as well, because they both have so different and so rich flavors to share with you. So this was the American recipe cooked in the oven, and it's delicious, but it's very, very sweet. So I think you need to cut it with something, either fine mustard or a pickle of some sort. Otherwise it's going to get overwhelming very fast. So just have some kind of side or some kind of a sauce or a pickle that's going to be the extreme opposite of it to balance it out. This specific cooked version of the bacon is super good. The smokiness is there, the sweetness is there. Oh wow, that was a punch in a good way. That was the oven cooked Chinese version. It's something that I never tried. I think you should try this. Scrap everything else, just try this Chinese style version, because I guarantee it's nothing like you've ever experienced before. It's funny how memories of childhood and of spending time at grandma's always push me to try different things. This is just amazing. I mean, I love it, and there's no words for me to describe how much I enjoy eating this recipe. It's something that has huge sentimental value to me, but as well the taste and the flavor is spot on. The beer is the main flavor here, and I think you can pair it with whatever you want, but I think this one specifically can be enjoyed on its own. It's very balanced, yeah? The smokiness, the beer flavor, the spices, the seasoning, everything is so well balanced that it doesn't need anything else. It's a dish on its own. Now, just a quick mention here, with the cured meats, you will have the pork skin still attached to the meat, but it's not going to be as soft or as chewable as the cooked version. So maybe you want to remove it before. I enjoy munching or chewing on it like gum, but it's quite tough. So maybe just get rid of it, give it to the dog or something like that. Now we're moving to the cured bacons, and the first one is going to be the American one. More smoke, less sugar, which I guess it's normal because it's not cooked, so the sugar doesn't really caramelize and become very potent. But I think now it would be even more beneficial to add the mustard, because now the smoke is the dominant flavor and the mustard is going to cut through it really nicely. Delicious. Same as before with the Chinese style one, the soy sauce is the star of the show here, but it's even more strong or even more potent in the cured version instead of the cooked one. When you cook it, it kind of mixes with all the other flavors and ingredients, whereas here it takes front stage. Same as with the cooked Romanian, I wouldn't temper with the flavor of this one. It should be enjoyed by itself. Just know that on its own is really, really, really delicious. I actually like it cured more because this is basically summertime food. You know, you have your hog, you sacrifice it in the winter time just before Christmas, you cure it, preserve it, dry it, smoke it, and so on, and then you hang it traditionally in the attic or in a cold room for a long time, and then summer or springtime comes and you need some really high-end energy to go to, you know, cut the grass and dry it and bring it home, cut the wood in the forest, take care of the animals, and all the chores that need to be done homesteading in the old way. And this is basically breakfast, if you can believe that. A big slab of this cured bacon with fresh onion, with tomatoes and cucumbers from the garden, or whatever's available fruit and veggie wise. And trust me, this will keep you fed and energized all the way through the day. You can skip lunch with this for breakfast. We've done it. Another 5 days, and this time we made bacon. I mean, look at this, 5 days. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you liked it, and I would really like to see if you guys try any of these recipes, how it turned out for you. You can use all kind of ways to smoke the bacon. You don't necessarily need a smokehouse. You know, some people use grills and all kind of other methods. Don't feel intimidated by the fact that maybe you don't have a built smokehouse. To do what you can with what you have where you are. Just give them a try, because in my opinion they're something special and they're delicious. And if you like bacon and smoked meat products, this is a must, especially for the upcoming holidays. So thanks for liking and subscribing, thanks for watching and sharing, and I'll see you in the next one.